Bill and Dave are on the lam, not a scam. Grab your cam, could be in a traffic jam or maybe in Siam. Bill and Dave are hiding out, what's their route? Won't give out, searching Brussels for a sprout. They rarely mill a boat. Bill and Dave are on the lam, on a tram in Rotterdam. Don't you forward them, you spam, they're clearly on the lam.
Hey! It's on the lam.
On the lam.
On the lam.
In an undisclosed location.
Yeah. We've never been here before, listeners.
So.
And, I mean, you can try and figure out where we're at, but I really don't think it will. So, Yeah, I mean, we're not the boss of you. You can do what you want, but I wouldn't waste much time trying to figure out where we are.
No. There's much more important things to do with life, hopefully. And come to think of it, why are you listening to this?
Yeah.
There's something more important.
Don't you have anything else to do? What are you doing? Something I wanted to ask you, but I wasn't going to ask it on the last podcast. But I'll ask it on this podcast.
Oh, boy.
Instead. It has nothing to do with this podcast.
This is going to be the first podcast that's edited?
No, just leave it in. Well, the listener might enjoy it. Hey, if they enjoy listening to us, they'll enjoy listening to this. Your little story about being arrested in Olympia Hills. I was just going to ask if I can use that mugshot for the graphic for the podcast. Or would you rather I didn't?
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, I think that's...
I had an idea about this podcast. And
what was the idea?
I was somewhat reluctant to bring it up but on the podcast, but just an idea.
Okay.
Another idea about the previous podcasts.
Yes.
Have you thought, and maybe the listeners can chime in on this, have you thought about maybe putting together an MP3 CD of like the first year and selling that?
Wow.
To the listeners?
I have not thought of that.
I'm not sure how much more we can compress it to fit it down on one CD and still have it at a listenable audio quality.
Well, I know you can get like 200 Jack Benny shows on one CD in MP3 form. But the first 52 episodes, we might be able to fit them all on one. And just do it, in incarnations of 52. Yeah, we can do that. If we make good on that, we can announce it at a future date, and we can post it on our Facebook page, and advertise it. We sell it for a reasonable price. Some make a small profit, but not unreasonable to the pocketbook in today's economic atmosphere.
Yeah. Well, 52 episodes, at least a half hour each. That's 25 hours in here.
Yeah.
I don't think $600 is too much to ask
for
one of those discs.
It's a bargain. Yeah. That's a great idea, Dave. It remains to be seen if we sell it.
Well, yeah. Well, and not to mention, I don't really know about the compiling MP3 formats. I don't know if I would be able to do that, or if you would be able to do that with the programs that you have, the software programs, not the TV programs.
I like a lot of TV programs.
Can you do that with your TV programs?
We'll look at it. This is what we'll say. This is a great idea. We'll get back to the listener on whether it happens or not. It was suggested early on by one of our two faithful listeners.
Marge or Wendy.
Marge or Wendy. One of those girls. That we should have T-shirts. And it's a possibility. Maybe with the money we make from CD sales, we can put together some T-shirts. We'll see. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves here.
No.
We've only been doing this for a year. Actually, 3 years, but we only started posting them on the internet a year ago.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. I think of it in terms of. I mark it in my mind in terms of visits you and Wendy have made to Door County. You've come up 3 different times. 2008, 2010, and 2012. So far. In 2008, we first got the idea. So you're getting a little background on the lamb now, listener. In 2008, we were sitting around the fire by the house we rent. It was out in the beautiful starry night. And you said something like, Bill, we should do a podcast. That was where this is how, so I'm laying it all on you. I kept that in my head, and we talked about it off and on over the next couple of years.
Why did I suggest that? Was there
I think we were probably talking about Jimmy Pardo's podcast or something, and talking about how we liked it, and fun, and then you just said we should do a podcast. And I think it was just to record our conversations. And, we still have things we want to do with the podcast, which we have not done yet. And I would call that probably more to do with laziness than anything else. But, patience, all things will come in time. And we've already mentioned we want to do an old radio show. That's one of them.
Did we mention that on a podcast?
We did. A couple podcasts ago.
Okay.
Yeah. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's really going to happen, but we hope it will happen.
We hope if we keep talking about these things...
we shame ourselves into doing it.
People say, when's this
That's
gonna
one of the
happen?
best ways I have of
Yeah.
accomplishing things. Is I talk about it enough till people finally go, hey, I thought you were going to do this. And I go, oh, yeah, okay.
So, but it's been 2008.
Well, then it was like 2010 when we recorded the first podcast.
But I was just thinking of Door County. I was thinking about the time that has passed, and just wanted to say, Bill,
Yes, Dave?
It's been very enjoyable getting to know you better in these podcasts, and Marge, and spending time. And
This certainly is
been,
a way. I think what we've done, and I think this is a great accomplishment, and people that have complimented me, and mind you, there hasn't been a lot of them, but people that have complimented me on the podcast,
Marge and Wendy.
Marge and Wendy, have pointed out that, and I have thought of this independently, and I've spoken to you about it. It is a way to get stories from your life out of your brain and down for posterity. It is very biographical. And you just mentioned it has helped you to get to know us. And it's like, yeah, you get to know somebody because suddenly you're in this arena where you're constantly drawing on your own past, whether it is hearing about your mother's cat named Lucifer, calling for Lucifer, or you being arrested in Olympia Fields, or me getting slapped around by the guy playing Willie Loman in Death of a Salesman. Stories that might never see the light of day ever again. Mm-hmm. They just get kind of drug out, sometimes really spontaneously. Like, I know there have been many stories I've told on here that I never thought I'd ever think of again. But something reminds you, and you start talking about it.
And what's also interesting is just as, as the friendship is cultivated, you can't help, but I'm assuming you can't help, I can't help but, think about other relationships in your life that are also changing and, not always for the better.
Yeah.
and it's just interesting how, well, I guess that's just the cycle of life,
things change.
Just come in waves.
Yeah. Things develop, things morph into other things.
People change.
Mm-hmm.
Change.
Yep. There's a lot of change. And, I'm thinking, if I dug into the cushions of this...
You're not likely to find any change.
Oh, well, that just, that's the exception that proves the rule. You don't always find change. But, speaking of that, you may have noticed this at our house. We had one of those plastic bottles. It's a Moosehead beer bottle that we got from a store that sells such things up in the Fox Valley Mall. And we always throw our spare change into it. and it's slowly getting filled. We got this, I want to say in the mid 2000s, maybe 2005, something like that. And it amazes me that much coinage has come out of our pockets over the years, even though, you'd think on the one hand, I'm surprised it isn't more than that. Well, some of it you actually spend, but this is just the extra stuff. It's like, always empty our pockets, or if we get little pockets of change, in the car, always ends up in the bottle. And I don't know what we're going to do with it. I don't know how much money's actually there. But my friend, I remember my friend Jack Prendergast, his wife Eileen listens to this podcast. I don't know if Jack has ever listened, but hi Eileen.
Hi.
And I play Scrabble with her on Facebook now. But I remember Jack, way back when, I think this is before he even met Eileen, he used to keep on his dining room table a big, like a punch bowl. And he and his roommate would just like toss their change in there. And he ended up with like $400 when he took it to the bank. And he used it for his vacation. And I can't wait to find out if that's how much I got in that plastic bottle.
When did I do that? Except we keep, I won't tell you where, but we have a little cloth bag. I'll tell you, Bill, but not the listeners, in case there's any...
By the way, please don't anyone come and rob us of our bottle
looking
of
for your
change.
plastic moose head. But we turn it in. Wendy takes it into the bank, I don't know, every 4-6 months, and it's usually, anywhere between $50 and $100 worth of change in the bag.
That's amazing.
I remember, speaking of things that you never would have thought of again, one of my first apartments, I had one of those glass water jugs. The
water the old days of
I would put change in that. It got fairly heavy because it was heavy to start with because it was this glass.
Yeah, but that's the thing about those coins weigh a lot.
And I want to say that maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 inches worth of the bottom were filled. I remember it was heavy to move, and I picked it up by the neck, and it broke. So that was the end of me saving coins in
a glass bottle.
Glass bottle.
Well, that probably is why that happened enough that where someone got the idea. Let's make big plastic bottles of different, like Coke. We
experimented with the cardboard, but it just
cardboard bottle. Didn't hold a lot of coins. Now, this leads me to another thing. Recently, Canada voted to eliminate their penny. Did you hear about that?
I did, but it's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, and they say it's coming to the U.S. And, it begs the question, are pennies going to be worth anything at all if they're no longer legal tender? Are they just going to be worth something to collectors, or are they just going to be... Copper is very expensive. It was before 1978, pennies were made of real copper. So any pennies before 1978, I think that's the right date. People sell now to melt them down for their value in copper, because I guess copper is going through the roof. That's why there's that thing now, houses that are sitting for sale, if you go in to buy a house, you've got to double check that someone hasn't come in and stolen the copper pipes.
Right, yeah.
Because I know our friend Todd, that happened to a house he was looking at.
Yeah.
They were about to test the water, and the guy had to call the water department and say, "Wait, stop! There's no pipes in this house." I would have, so well.
Yeah, I know we've taken some older coins. They're old coins, but they don't have any collector value, and